Hello. First, I'd like to thank the folks at Pitt County Public Access Television 23 for this opportunity. This is a great chance, I believe, for candidates to connect with the people and also present ourselves for consideration in this upcoming May 17th primary. My name is Julian Bishop, and I'm running for the United States House of Representatives, District 1 seat. And today, in this interview, I will be interviewed by none other than my wife, my partner in life, and the person who has been an ace for support every step along the way, Angela Bishop.
Thank you, Julian. I'm very grateful for your support through the years as well, and I'm glad to be on this journey with you. Public service has been important to you your whole life, and I know you're eager to hear from folks and help advocate for what's important to them. I think these questions will give the voters a good opportunity to get to know you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll start with the first question. How do you think your background and that of your family will resonate with the people of District 1?
I appreciate the question and thank you very much for doing this. My grandfather was a sharecropper in Nash County and in Halifax County during the 1930s and 40s. He had to leave in the 1950s because there was no opportunity down here for him and his family. My mother, when we moved back here to live in Nash County from Washington, D.C., she worked in the cotton mill. And she used to work second and third shift. She would come home covered in cotton lint and have the cotton fabric that got into her lungs, which followed her for the rest of her days in terms of her health. That life experience, growing up in a blue-collar family and feeling the impact, the generational impact of having to go out and do the best you could with what you had, is part of my life story. And I think that is a narrative, the feet on the ground, the down home, the grounded perspective that the people in District 1 can relate to. And I think the people in Pitt County can relate to that kind of story. And that's the kind of story I plan to take to Washington, D.C. if I am able to be elected in the primary.
Next question. What do you see as the #1 educational priority for District 1?
There's been a lot of talk at the national level, I believe, about education, what's offered in curriculum at the county level. And I'm sure Pitt County is no different when it comes to the feelings and the passion, the rightful passion that exists around some of these conversations. But let me say plainly that in North Carolina, and especially for Pitt County, there are two concerns that remain, and no matter what's going on and swirling around in the conversation in Washington, D.C. Number one is the graduation rate, which has improved a lot for students in North Carolina, quite frankly, and that's good. And the same can be said for Pitt County. But one of the things that remains a problem is the level of aptitude for our students. And I know that the people in District 1 in Northeastern North Carolina and Central North Carolina, when they send their kids to school, they want their kids to do better than they did. They want their kids to do better than their grandparents did. And that's what it's all about. And quite frankly, we need to have the very realistic conversations about how our children are doing at an aptitude level. It's not something that's popular to talk about, but the Black male demographic consistently scores the lowest on our standardized exams in North Carolina. That's a problem. We need to do something about it. When they leave grade school, the Black males in Pitt County score at an average of 6% in terms of passing when it comes to reading comprehension. Now, the simple fact of the matter is, it's great to have a high school diploma, but it won't do you any good in the real world if you can't read it. And that's the kind of conversation we need to have both in Pitt County District 1 and also at the national level. Yes, we've made some progress and we made great strides in our state and in our counties in the Northeastern District, but we can do a whole lot better. And that's what, and that's the kind of perspective I intend to represent when I go to Congress.
Thank you. What do you see as the key infrastructure challenge for Eastern North Carolina?
In Eastern North Carolina, we have a unique opportunity when it comes to the national economy. And that is that we have the best resource, in my estimation, in the southeastern part of our country, and that's our people. But having the best resource won't do you much good if you don't have basic infrastructure in place. There was a time when the most important concern was the highway system, the transportation, and how we move goods and services and ourselves from point A to point B. But now, quite frankly, the important thing now is, in today's context, in the information age, is the information superhighway. There are a lot of people in Pitt County who I'm sure can relate to the experience of going for a drive, and as soon as you get outside of Greenville, you lose your 5G connection. You not only lose 5G in some cases, but if you're going to visit your grandfather or your great aunt or go to the church that meets every other Sunday, you don't have any internet connection at all. And so what that infrastructure challenge means to the people in places like Pitt County, Nash County, Martin County, Greene County, Tyrrell County, Chowan County, and Northeastern North Carolina is that when a company is considering coming to our state to invest during the information age that we live in, and there is very little internet connectivity for that company to conduct its business online, they're not coming to our state and they're not coming to our county. And this is something that we can get right. This is not something that's particularly hard because we know exactly what needs to be done. And we need to pay careful and close attention to what the infrastructure in terms of the information age we live in means to our people and our economy.
How has inflation affected the people of Eastern North Carolina over the last 14 months?
You know, I grew up, as you know, Angela, I grew up in a household that had a lot of challenges. We lived in a single wide trailer. My mother worked third shift at the Rocky Mount Cotton Mill, and she made $600 a month. Today, the average income in Pitt County for an individual is right around $25,000. And this is what that means when it comes to the inflation rate, which is approaching 8%. If you make poverty wages and you've been making that money for the last 5 to 10 years, and the average price of something has gone up upwards of 8%, that means that you have to make some very hard choices that nobody should have to make, especially for people who work full-time and go out and play by the rules and do what they're supposed to do. You have to make a decision in this inflationary world that we live in between paying for your medication for your kids and buying groceries. You have to make the hard decision between putting gas in your tank or food in your stomach. And you have to buy less, and you can only buy less of everything. That's a problem, especially for people who go out, work every day, and through no fault of their own, are stuck in an economy where the inflation rate is getting up to 8%. So the things that we can do something about, things that we have control over in Congress, I believe, is passing a basic minimum wage of $15 an hour. It's outrageous that the minimum wage in this country has not kept pace with inflation. How can you live in a capitalistic economy if you don't allow the minimum wage to keep pace with a basic measure in that economy, which is the rate of inflation? That means that poor people are going to have to suffer more and more. And that's the kind of voice and perspective that I plan to bring to Congress. The working perspective, the perspective of someone who has to get up and go to work every day, because that's the kind of household I had to grow up in. And I think that's the kind of perspective we need more of in Washington, D.C.
Very important issue. Next question. How would your voice be a positive contribution to the national discussion regarding international security, especially in light of the recent developments as we've seen in Ukraine over the past month?
Yeah. I've always been very grateful for having the chance to serve my country. I was in the Navy for 25 years. I retired with honorable service. And one of the things I learned during that service is that the United States is not unto itself. We exist in this world with other countries, and we are affected by the things that go on overseas. That's just a reality that we have to deal with. And I think that perspective I have in being in those places in the world, that right now we have a lot of interests and problems. I think I can help translate what those issues mean to the people in Pitt County. I've been on deployment in the Strait of Hormuz off the coast of Iran. So I know the importance of oil and the impact the oil market can have on a local economy. And one of the results of what's going on in Ukraine is the price of oil. So I think when someone has to go talk to the people at the local level and explain why the price of gasoline has doubled over the last 14 months, it helps if you've been to the places that right now are affecting the price of oil. I also think that it's important to be able to be from the type of place that you represent. So when you speak about things like the impact that potentially going to war can have on people, when they have to look at this on TV every single day, and they may sit there and think, well, what does this mean to me? Well, if the country is involved in a war, then that's going to have profound impact on us as a nation. We've never been in a situation, if we get pulled into this thing in Ukraine, where we've been in an active shooting war with a peer power in the information age. So if we have to deal with something like a cyber attack from Russia, that's an entirely different ballgame. And we have to understand that going up against some countries is not going to be the dogfall it was in Iraq or some of the other places we've been involved in recent years. So that's the kind of translation of those international issues that I think my experience in being in those other countries, being on deployments, and being in shooting wars in my Navy service allows me to bring that kind of perspective back to the local level so that I can help translate those issues for the people and help them understand how it affects them, the things that they're looking at every single day on television.
What do you see as the two concerns for our country from a national and homeland security perspective?
Yeah, this is an interesting day and time that we live in, and one of the important things, as I just said, for our representatives in Congress is making sure that the people at the local level understand what some of the top priorities are. And I think from a national and homeland security perspective, there are two things that continue to stand out for the people in Pitt County and in District 1. The first is the threat that presents itself from organized white supremacist violence. Now, I know that that is not the kind of thing that a lot of folks like to talk about or hear about, but it's a fact. And I think we saw a glimpse of that on January 6th. And we have to call that out for what it is. When these white supremacist terrorists blow up churches like they did in Charleston, and go in and shoot up churches, like they did in Charleston, when they blow up churches like they used to do in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, we have to call that out for what it is. And we have to realize and be honest with ourselves about one simple fact. These people haven't gone anywhere. They passed a lot of this mindset down to their children. That's why we had January 6th. And that's a serious problem for the country from a homeland security perspective. And I think my experience can relate to that. Also at the national level, I think we have to be mindful of the threat that we have from strategic competitors like Russia and North Korea. We see what Russia's doing in Ukraine right now, and we now know that North Korea has the bomb. These are things that present a very stark reality for the United States. We just can't pretend that they don't have any effect for us. We have to pay attention to it, but we have to have leaders with a certain temperament in place in Congress. And sometimes I'm sure the people in Pitt County, when they watch TV and they see people making all these statements and quite frankly, engaging in what I consider to be rather loose talk when it comes to the security of the United States, they have to be, the people in Northeastern North Carolina, I'm sure, are very concerned about the way these issues are being discussed. These are very sober topics, and we need to have people with a certain temperance and perspective and balance of mind and power elected who can represent the interests of the people in a way that's sane and makes sense.
Yeah. You have a background in law enforcement. How will this be a positive contribution to the discussion around local crime and security issues?
Yeah. I used to be a police officer in Rocky Mount. A lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, what? Used to be a cop? What about that ticket I got years ago? But I used to be a police officer, and I was a regular patrolman, and I saw a lot of things up close on a daily basis. And our police officers do hard work. Yes, there are some problems from time to time, like there are with any of our public servants, and they need to be held accountable like everybody else. But the bottom line is that there's a nexus between the practice of law enforcement on the streets of places like Greenville, right, in Rocky Mount and Wilson. There's a nexus between that and the national problems that our country faces. The drugs that are sold on the streets in Greenville, North Carolina, by and large, don't come from Greenville, North Carolina, right? They come from overseas. They come from Colombia. The cocaine comes from Colombia. The heroin comes from Afghanistan. And these are the problems that represent the nexus between the national problems and what goes on at the local level for law enforcement. We need to be mindful of that and send people to Washington who understands the connection between the two and won't underestimate the impact that those things have at the local level. In my family, there are people who struggle with drug addiction. There are people who struggle with being able to make the right decisions when it comes to being on the wrong side of the law. And that's something that I think the people in Pitt County can relate to with their families as well. And so I understand the national level impact and what that has at the local level. And I think that's the kind of representation I could bring for the people in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. And how does your military service and background shape your views with regard to national interests of local concern, such as healthcare, veteran services, and support to the military bases in North Carolina?
Well, as you can relate to this question better than anybody, for those of you out there, my wife is a social worker with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and this is something that she has a deep passion for, and she does great work in. And I'm not just saying that from the perspective of someone like myself who served in the military for 25 years, but just for someone who understands the value of public service. And I know that social workers who work for organizations like the VA, like my wife, when she has to go out there and drive 50, 60 miles, that's a great thing that the veterans have. But it also implies something that could be better. And that is, why are we having to drive 50, 60 miles to get services to veterans, no matter what that service might be? There are counties in District 1 that are not like Greenville, which has a very robust medical system with several hospitals and clinics that people have access to. There are counties in District 1 that don't even have hospitals. And this is something that needs to be addressed. There's no reason why we can't have a satellite medical center set up, as well as much for civilians as we do for veterans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. In this day and time of COVID, we've learned to get vaccines and services to people who need it. And quite frankly, we need to be very concerned about people who live in our rural areas who can't drive 10 minutes and get to the hospital. What does that look like in a pandemic? And how do we solve those problems? We should be able to address these things with a clear eye towards solutions for everybody, no matter what party you happen to be registered with, whether you're a Democrat or an unaffiliated voter, or even a Republican voter. These are issues that affect all of us. And I think that my military service and background as a veteran has helped me understand much better this problem as it exists for the wide open spaces in places like Northeastern North Carolina.
What have you learned thus far as a candidate regarding the political process of running for office?
It's been an interesting experience so far. I've enjoyed it, and I've learned a lot, though, with humility, because I think you have to go about this the way our founders intended when they wrote the Constitution. And that is, our representatives work for us. It's not the other way around. And as a candidate, I've learned to appreciate that more and more. That's something I've come to learn and appreciate more. Something else I've come to appreciate and learn is the value of having the independent mind to go out and listen to people. I haven't, I know this is the primary season, and people aren't supposed to, within the party, officially take sides, and that's okay. That's probably the way it should be. But because I don't know anybody and I'm not dialed in with all the high up people, that means that when I go talk to people, I don't have talking points. I have listening points. And I think that's the kind of thing that it sits well with me, and I think it sits well with people. That ability to go out and not be constrained by some of the scripts that people, I'm sure, are sent to go talk to folks about. I go listen to people. That's what this campaign is about, and that's what I've learned more and developed more of an appreciation for as a candidate.
You are definitely a good listener and good at getting things done. So, last question. How do you think your life's experience will help you in representing the interests of the people of District 1?
Yeah, and I've said this before, and it's on my website, www.JullianCBishopSr, and that's 2 L's in Julian. But I've said this before, and I try to say this everywhere I go and talk to people. And that is, I'm just a regular guy who had some good mentors growing up in Nash County. And I think that life's experience is something that everybody in our district, and especially Pitt County, can relate to. Many times in my life, and I'm sure people who are listening to this can really relate to what I'm about to say. Many times in my life, people told me I wasn't good enough to do this and that. People told me that I couldn't move on to the next level. I couldn't achieve what I wanted to achieve or move on to. In some cases, I had people who were supposed to be watching out for me tell me those very things. And you know what? I didn't take no for an answer. I knew that this country is about giving everybody the same opportunity and treating everybody the same no matter what. And I think that life's experience, someone who had to grow up in a single wide trailer, a couple of 100 feet from a tobacco field, having to grow up, work, scrape, scratch, and even as an adult, work up to 3 jobs to make ends meet earlier in my adult life. I know what it's like to have to sit down and figure out bills and worry about how you're going to pay the house note, that sort of thing. And I think that's the kind of life's experience that the people, not only the people in our district and Pitt County, can relate to, but I think that's the kind of experience that we need in Congress, that kind of perspective that offers a view from someone who has his feet on the ground and not caught in the high up rafters in the rarefied air of exceptional power, that sort of thing. I'm just a regular guy. And that's the kind of perspective and life's experience I think that the people in Pitt County can relate to.
Good to hear your thoughts. And I know you're looking forward to further discussion with the people of Pitt County and District 1.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks again, Angela, for doing this with me and being there for me. I'd also like to thank again the people in Public Access Television 23, and specifically Ms. Thigpen, the general manager, for setting up this opportunity for the campaign. As I said before, my name is Julian Bishop, and I'm running for the Democratic nomination for the United States House of Representatives. On May 17th, the people of Pitt County have a very important decision. On that May 17th primary, you have to decide between 4 people who you want to represent you on the general election ticket. If you vote for me, you know that the person who gets up every single day is getting up before the sun rises and is going to work on behalf of someone who knows your life experience, who appreciates the generational sacrifices that put us where we are today. And I think that's what we need in Washington. I will never claim to have all the answers, but the one thing I will always do is my level best to find the truth in every issue and to represent on behalf of the people in Pitt County in our congressional district. Thank you very much, and I'll see you at the polls on May 17th.